Hi, I'm Johnny and you're watching the Hexy Beast. And on today's episode I'm going to be doing something a little bit special. This is actually a first for me. It will actually be my first ever Kickstarter preview. So, I'm going to be using the Tabletop Simulator mod to look at Frostpunk the board game. So let's get downstairs to the PC, shall we?
We roam the still, cold world. No horizon in sight. The rulers of old, stripped of pride and glory. It feels as yesterday we were turning the wheels of progress. Until the frost stopped it all. Suddenly, without a warning. When tides had changed, they changed for all of us, no matter wealth or class. They lost our world to snow, and with it, our last traces of humanity. We bid farewell to plenty, and for those who remained came the time to adapt. We decided to leave our homes and head north. We roamed for weeks, maybe months, leaving behind all the things we once believed had made us. It was hope that pushed us forward. Slowly, step by step. We knew the cost of our journey, and we paid the price 100 times. Finally, the time has come to build the last city on Earth.
Okay, so this is the Frostpunk mod in Tabletop Simulator, and I just want to say, first of all, if you like the look of this, then please head over to the Kickstarter page. I'll leave a link in the description, and think about backing the game. Also, I'll leave a link to the mod itself in the description. So now that I've got that out of the way, let's get on with setup. So the first thing we're going to be doing is we're actually, based on this card, is we're going to be drawing 2 hope tokens and placing them on the hope track, activating the first one, doing the same for discontent, and then we're going to draw 1 body token and add it to our death track, and I'll show you how to do all that now. Okay, so that's 2 discontent, 2 hope, and 1 each activated, so we'll flip the first token of each one. And then we're going to add 1 of these body tokens to the first space on our player board. Okay, so next we're going to set up the map, and to do this, the first thing we want to do is shuffle all these starting wall resources, these range A tiles, and these range B tiles. These tiles will go on the inside, around the outside here, and these tiles will go on the outside around by the wall. So to start with, we're going to be drawing 1 of these tokens, going in a clockwise order around the outside of the board on its corners, until we have drawn 3 resources, which is what we've done now. And for each blank, we're basically going to populate the map. So we're going to take 1, 2, 3, and for the blank here, we're going to drop 1. For the blank over here, we're going to drop 1. And for the blank up top, we're going to drop 1. And then we're just basically going to do the same again with the range B tiles. Plopping them on the outside. So we're going to place 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. We're then going to flip each one over and lock them in place using the F key to flip and the L key to lock. Okay, so now that we've set up our map, it's now time to place the starting resources on each tile. And as you can see, each tile has the resources printed on it. So let's just get that done, shall we? Okay, as you can see, that's done. Okay, so now it's time to have a quick look at the laws. As you can see, these starting laws are directly opposed to each other, and there are 4 pairs of them. So for example, we have child labour versus child shelter. If you were to choose one of these laws as one of your actions, you would basically lose the other one. So we've also got to set up 4 random law slots at the top. Let's do this now. So these are the 8 laws included with this mod. There will be more in the main game, but for now all we need to worry about is how to choose out of these 8. And we're going to do this by rolling these 4 dice at the top. So once we roll them, we're basically going to be picking from the results. Anything you have doubles of, just re-roll. There we go. So we got 4, 2, 6 and 3. So 4, 2 and 3, we'll get them. And we'll take them over there to place them here. And then we have 6, which is basically this one here. Okay, so we'll take this one as well and place that here. Now that we're done with that, we can delete all these because we won't be needing them for the rest of the game. Okay, so next it's time to set up the technology deck, and we'll do this by first shuffling the cards with this back and dealing 4 of them into this spot here, and then flipping the first 2. These will be technologies that we can unlock throughout the game. You won't be needing the rest of these technology cards, so they can just be deleted. Okay, so what we need to do now is set up the dust deck, and to do this we'll take the top social dispute card and shuffle it into the dust deck. But first it's worth having a look and see what it does. So we have a couple of different effects based on whether our hope is greater than our discontent is greater than our hope, or if our hope and discontent are equal. And looking at the effects of these encounters, it's probably best that I try and increase my hope throughout my turn. Anyway, what you're going to do is you're going to take this card, flip it over and shuffle it into the dust deck. The interesting thing is that we are now ready to play, and on the first round what we're going to do is we're actually going to start on the action phase. But first I want to take a quick look at the scenario card to tell us how we set up the population, as the mod handles it automatically, but I just want to explain it to you. So let's have a quick look at the scenario card, because this basically tells us how to set up our population tracks and our starting resources. So it says we're going to start with 4 food, which is the yellow token you can see on the 4 space on the track. We're going to get 2 coal and 3 wood and no steam cores. These 2 sets of resources will be on our player board, which I'll show you in a minute. But the thing I wanted to pay attention to are the society icons at the top. So the first icon is the worker icon, which says that we start with a population of 25 workers and 2 of them are sick. So as you can see, we've got the token over here, which is our worker token, set to 25. And we've also got our sick token put onto the second space of the sickness track. Basically, what this means is that when we're in the action phase, we will have 5 meeples to use with our worker, and basically in other phases there are actual sickness effects that get resolved, which we'll talk about when we get to. So we've done that. We've got our engineers set at 12. None of them are sick, so that's a good thing. We've got our children set to 8 with 2 of them sick. I think the token's underneath the worker look. And we have done our hope and discontent as the first part of the turn. So next thing we need to make sure we got is our body token, which I remembered this time. Okay, so now we're ready to start our action phase. Let's do that now. Okay, the first thing we're supposed to do is check if any of our workers need to be on any of these used tokens. These tokens flip over. They have a buff side and a use side basically. So this one would be an extra worker if it's this way up. And this one basically takes a worker off you, but we don't have any of them on the board right now. So after that then we would then resolve our actions, and we get 1 action per meeple. As you can see, we have 5 actions for normal worker meeples, and we also have 3 engineer meeples and 2 children, which can't work for us right now unless we enact a law. But the first thing we want to worry about is starting that generator. Okay, so let's talk about the generator. And as you can see, the generator marker, the heat marker, is right here, and what we need to do in order to move that heat marker is spend a coal to turn on the generator. This is denoted by the cog around the outside, which as you can see has numbers around it, and basically there's a storm token that if it ever crosses our round marker, it will cause this counter to increase. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to spend 1 coal as a free action to move this marker here. Okay, I think now is an important time to mention the difference between a heated action and a non-heated action. So because our heat marker is now heating this inside row, it means any workers we place here won't get sick from the cold. If it was a cold action, such as the shoveling, as you can see denoted by the sick icon, what we would do is, when we actually place the worker, is increase the amount of sick population in the tracks above. But because we're heated, we don't have to worry about that right now, so I'm just going to take my first worker and place it on this coal space. That means that we can gather up to 2 of the resources on the space. So now we have 3 coal. So another kind of action we can perform is to place a worker on any of these buildings. As you can see by the icon in the bottom left corner of each building, that some buildings require engineers, and that's what this fist symbol, the worker symbol, with the cog around it means. It means it requires an engineer. So this space here is one that we can use to enact a law. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my engineer and place it on this space. Like so. Now let's go have a look at the laws. So because we've decided to take the enact law action, basically we get to choose from any one of these laws to enact right now. And looking at what we've got, I think child shelter might be for us. Basically, when we choose to enact this law, we will resolve it from top to bottom. So this will give us +1 hope, and the children will be safer if they stay in child shelters during the day, and they won't cause any mischief. So this means we can unlock a child shelter special building, which costs 1 wood, and we can build it immediately after introducing this law. So we introduce the law, we put it in the law spaces around the outside of the board. Let's do this now. Okay, so now we're going to move this law over to this display over here, called the law display, and we're also going to advance our hope track. Let's do this now. Okay, so when we advance in the hope track, we can either choose to flip one of the tokens that has not been activated yet, or we can choose to add a token from the bag. In this case, I think we're going to add a token from the bag. It's worth also noting that activated tokens don't really mean anything right now, but cards will check for them. So let's move on. Also, let's not forget that we get to build this building. So let's have a look at how to do that now. We're going to unlock this child shelter. That's a good start. Okay, so the child shelter building, and it is down here below the board. Remember, it said it was going to cost us 1 wood. So let's spend the wood on that now. So now we've spent our wood, we can choose to place our building. We can place in any empty spot. I'm going to place it by here. But it's worth noting that if it was going to be placed on any building with a resource on it, I would first have to delete the resource and discard it before being able to place the building on that space. So this child shelter basically means that when night comes, I will be able to shelter 4 children. So let's move on, shall we? Also, anytime we enact a law, what we need to do is shuffle this little deck underneath it and put one of those cards in the dust deck. We can now delete the other card as it's not needed. Also, remember how I said before that these laws are directly opposed? So because we've taken this law no longer applies. So might as well get rid of that as well. So now, continuing on with the action phase, I think I'm going to spend this worker to get some wood from over here. So that's 2 wood. Thank you. And I'm also going to use this worker, I think, to do the build actions. So let's talk about building. So because we placed this worker here, we now have some choices to make. We can choose from any of these buildings as long as we've got the wood to build them, and we can choose up to 3 buildings to build. The size doesn't matter, so say these double ones, even though they're a bit more expensive, they do take up more space on the tile, but they don't actually cost you another build. So what we're going to do, I think, out of smartness, because we got this gathering post here, which allows us to gather resources from the surrounding areas. So that's going to cost us 1. And then I think we are going to get a hunter's hut. And I think, so that's 2, and we're going to spend 2 to get these tents. Okay, so now let's go place them on the board. Okay, so now we need to place our 3 buildings, but as you've probably noticed, we've actually only got 1 space on the board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my tents on the innermost space by here. And lock them in place. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this gathering post on this spot by here, and because of that, I'm going to have to lose this wood. Remember what I said before? So we're going to place that here and lock it. I never said this was going to be a smart play, but I'm just trying to show you what everything does. So I'm also going to lose these 3 coal for placing this hunter's hut here. Coal for food. Is it a good choice? We'll find out later. So now we have some actions that are a little further out afield. I think it's about time we topped up that generator. So let's do that now. We're going to spend 1 coal to advance our heat marker. Okay, so because we spent our coal, what we're going to do is we're going to move the heat marker up 1. This means that the middle ring of tiles is now heated, so any actions we take there won't cause our meeples to get sick. Okay, so now, because that middle row is heated, I'm going to take this worker and place him on my hunting hut, which will allow me to gain 5 food. So let's do that now. That's food up by 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, giving us 9 food. Nice. Okay, with our next meeple, we're actually going to take our first cold action, and this is the shovel snow action. And for this action, we can either take 2 of the inside tiles and add them to the map, or 1 of the outside tiles. And in this case, I think I'm going to take 2 of the inside tiles, place 1 by here, and 1 by here. So now, what we do now is we'd flip and lock these like before, and add the resources to them. So in this case, there's 4 coal. And we also have 4 trees. So we'll place them now. Whoops. And because this was a cold action, this means that my worker is going to get sick and move 1 up on this sickness track. Okay, so that just leaves us with our 2 engineers to place. And I think, because we can use these as any other kind of worker, I'm going to place 1 on this space to take 2 coal. And I'm going to place the next one after spending a coal to advance my heat marker on this space. Okay, so now that you've seen the actions we can do, let's talk about how we can win or lose the game. So the goal of this scenario is for us to survive 12 rounds. We can lose the game if we ever need to add a 6 discontent token, which means that, you know, people have lost faith in us and we are no longer going to survive. The other way we can lose is if we lose all our hope. We can also lose if our population decreases too much. We can lose if this hunger token ever reaches at the top here. We can lose if the sickness ever gets up the top here. And we can also lose if the generator explodes, which I'll explain now. Okay, so to lose with the generator, basically what needs to happen is something I'll explain in a later phase, but this will fill up with cubes, and if you ever needed to put another cube on the top, it would then malfunction. If it was to malfunction a second time, the generator itself would explode and we would lose the game. Okay, so now we're moving to the dusk phase, which is where we draw and resolve a dusk card. So let's do that now. So when this happens, the first thing we need to do is draw a dusk card. So let's see what we got. Ouch. Thanks to the educational activities, the children can help us with more precise work. If the child shelter isn't built yet, it is built, so we don't have to lose 2 hope. That's lucky. And we shuffle this card into the dust deck. If the child shelter is built, place this card on the child shelter lore. I'm going to have to pay 1 steam core to upgrade a building and remove this card from the game. Okay, so as instructed, I'm just going to place this on top of my child shelter card. I can remove it if I pay 1 steam core. So that moves us on to the hunger phase. Okay, so let's get on with the hunger phase. So the first thing we need to do is reduce our hunger using our food. And luckily for us, our hunger token is on 0, so that doesn't cost us any food right now. The next thing we need to do is resolve and reset the hunger token. As there's no hunger left beyond the 0 space, we don't have to resolve any of these bottom icons. And then we need to feed our citizens based on the round number. So as we're on round 1, you can see that the citizens we need to feed are the children. So lucky for us, we have 8 children and 9 food. So that means that we're going to feed them and have 1 food left over. Okay, that concludes the hunger phase. Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to the night phase, which is basically the cleanup phase. So first thing we're going to do is return all our meeples to our supply. Okay, so we're just going to gather all our meeples off a board and place them back here on our player board. So next, we need to check how much of our meeples are going to be sick because they've been out in the cold overnight. So let's see which ones we can shelter. We've got 4 spots of shelter for kids. We cannot keep adults in the kids shelter. And we've only got 2 shelter for adults. Okay, so this means that we can house 2 children and 2 of our workers. So this means that 3 of our workers are going to get sick and 3 of our engineers are going to get sick. So that's 3 sick workers and 3 sick engineers. Okay, so that brings us on to the dawn phase. So we're going to move our counter back up to the top. So in the dawn phase, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to move the round marker, which means now in the hunger phase we have to feed the engineers. And we're going to resolve any event tokens, which are these things here, but we're not on top of it yet, so it's not really a problem for us. Okay, so now it's time to advance to the morning phase, where we draw and resolve a morning card. Okay, so we draw the top card of the morning deck. One of our engineers has an idea which can help us provide more food each day for the city. He needs some resources, but perhaps it would prove worth the investment. So I would place this card on the event display. Then in the action phase, I could place an engineer with 2 wood as an action. In the dusk phase, if there is no engineer on this card, +1 apathy, remove this card from the game with all resources used. If you have collected 4 wood on this project has been completed. Add DO44 card to the dusk deck. Or we can't afford to spend our valuable supplies on something uncertain. I actually don't think we can afford this, so I'm actually going to discard it and gain 1 discontent. So that's +1 discontent, and choices. Instead of flipping this, I might actually draw, but nah, 2 greed. Greed is high. Yeah, we'll flip the greed token instead of adding a new red token. Okay, so now it's time to move on to another one of the fun bits, the generator phase. So let's get on with that now, shall we? So first thing we need to do is we would add sick based on the heat token position. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is add the malfunction cubes to the bag. In the physical game, this will be a tower which you'll physically add cubes to the top of and pull a drawer out, and then random cubes will fall. But for the sakes of this, we've got this randomization method, which I'll explain now. So first things first, the heat token's up here. We didn't have to resolve any sick because we're at max, and that basically if there was any icons between you and the top marker, you would then resolve the icons respectively. But for now, we're going to put the malfunction cubes into the bag, which is 2 for now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to roll these 2 d8s. Because there's less than 10 in the bag, we're going to take the lowest number, which lucky for us was only a 1. And we're going to place that onto here. This is basically representing the damage. And remember, as I said before, if it goes too far, we're going to end up having to flip this. So that's that part done. The next thing we need to do is reset the marker. And now we're going to move on to the weather phase, where we're going to draw a weather card and resolve its effects. So let's draw our weather card. And as you can see, the first thing we need to do is advance the storm by 1. So let's do that now. So because the storm advances, it's going to get 1 space closer to us on the round track. And remember, as I said before, if these ever cross over, it's going to increase the cost of starting the generator. Okay, next we need to move the heat tokens up the track based on what this card says. So we'll have 1 space for this one and 1 space for this one. Next we need to resolve the food, and looking at the board, we only have 1 hunter set right here. So that means that we only advance the food marker by 2. Also, if we had any meeples out on our expedition, they would advance by 4 spaces. So that brings us on to the preparation phase. So let's get on with that now, where we're going to resolve 6 citizen tokens and we're going to update the citizen meeple number. Okay, so at this point, we're now going to resolve these top icons on these bars. So because our engineers are in this space, it means they're going to move forward by 1. And because our children are in this space, it means they're going to be moved forward by 1. And because our workers are in this space, it means they're going to move forward by 1 and flip the token. This doesn't do anything right now, but when this flips again on the next turn, basically it's going to mean that we're going to lose one of our workers, and our population will decrease. And as our population decreases, say if it was in this section, it would mean we would only have 4 worker meeples when we started. Another thing worth mentioning is that once we reach this much disease, we're going to be adding one of the tokens to our player board, which will basically take one of our meeples out of action. So given the situation, we actually don't lose any meeples, although one of our population is going to die next turn. It's important to remember that the track doesn't represent the amount of meeples, but actually the population in general, and only the bars at the top will actually represent the meeples themselves. So we're going to move into the next action phase with 5 workers, 3 engineers and 2 children. Okay, so that brings us back round to the action phase, which is where I'm going to choose to end this video. If you'd like to see a lot more of this game, Michael Kelly over at One Stop Co-op Shop has done a brilliant playthrough, so you should definitely go and check that out. So I'm going to say right now that if you've liked what you've seen, and I didn't cover everything, like I didn't do any expeditions, and you know, there's a few other things that I didn't show you, but I will say that if you like what you've seen, I think you should head over to the campaign page and give it a look, because there really is a lot to this game, and I for one am really excited about it. So anyway, let's get back to the shelf. Okay, so that was my quick look at the Tabletop Simulator mod for Frostpunk, the board game. I just want to say that it is absolutely one of my most anticipated games of the next year, and I really can't wait for that Kickstarter to deliver. In fact, I backed it myself. And if you'd like to take a look at that campaign or the Steam workshop mod itself, please check out the links I'll supply in the description. So anyway, if you like what you see, please feel free to smash that subscribe button up there and check out another one of my videos up here. I've been Johnny, you've been watching the Hexy Beast, and most of all, stay hexy everyone!